Chapter 27. Utona called a meeting of the entire group that evening by the large stone fireplace in the main meeting room. Our security has been accidentally breached. It's not necessary for me to explain by whom or how, but be on alert for anything unusual. I want to use the patrol system we first set up to monitor the tree line. If anyone is coming up any mountain, any face of the mountain, we want to know about it in time to either secure the building or get out. Kayla listened, filled with guilt. Several group members turned and looked at her, and Kayla was certain they knew she was to blame. She might as well confess, so she stood and spoke. "I'm so sorry. It's my fault. I forgot to tell you," Utona said. "I'm locking that room from now on. We're keeping it for emergency use only. In the meantime, let's all be extra alert and get the patrols up and running." For the next 5 days, all lessons were suspended, since no one seemed able to concentrate. Kayla sat alone on her sleeping bag, working on sewing together a jacket of animal pelts left over from when the group hunted its meals. The group often argued over whether they should eat meat or not. Kayla didn't eat meat anymore, suddenly finding she preferred nuts, berries, greens, and eggs. But she was glad some of them did eat meat and knew how to prepare the skins. She'd been told that the winter would be bitterly cold and she didn't want to get caught without a coat or a jacket. By August, the patrol was dropped. The group felt that Kayla's email hadn't put them in danger after all and was once again fully concentrated on perfecting their telepathy skills. Kayla kept her mind focused on Mufumbi, and each day her ability to see him increased. When she closed her eyes and concentrated on an image of his face now, it soon gave way to a picture of him that she suspected showed her what he was doing. Sometimes she saw him in a car, sometimes on the side of a road. "Come to me," she said in her mind. "I'm waiting for you. Keep coming towards me." It took all of her strength to contact him, and each time she'd sleep for nearly 12 hours afterwards. She was overjoyed each time she felt the deep exhaustion because it proved to her that she'd really made contact. Utona encouraged her to sleep outside, where you can be replenished by Earth's energy. Kayla was napping outside on the ground one August afternoon. She was right near the end of the forest, just below the tree line, where large pines gave way to small ones. A branch snapped. Still caught in sleep, she turned groggily towards the sound. The sun shone in her eyes, and black silhouettes moved towards her. She came fully awake and squinted into the sun. There were about 6 figures approaching, and they were all dressed in the same type of jumpsuit. Maybe they're from another resistance group, she thought. Pulling forward to sitting, she repositioned herself out of the sun's glare where she could see better, and her heart raced, and she was suddenly energized by fear. The woman approaching her was Nedra Harris. She sprang to her feet and began to run, legs pumping hard. A loud cracking sound exploded in her ear seconds before searing pain exploded her shoulder and shot through her entire body, throwing her to the ground. Her shoulder! She'd been shot in her shoulder! Pressing her forehead to the ground, she waited for a second shot to finish her, but the group raced past, their footsteps pounding in her ears. They were running up towards the building on top of the mountain. Then she heard another man approaching from behind. The pain coursing through her body made it impossible to turn. Her entire body tensed as she waited for a final bullet. She pressed her cheek to the cool dirt and shut her eyes and waited. The man put his hand on her wrist, but with surprising gentleness. "Oh my God," he murmured. Opening her eyes, she faced Mufumbi. Her mouth opened with words of love and joy at seeing him. All that came out was a rush of air. It's okay," he whispered, looking for a way to lift her. Shots rang out from the building above, screams and shouting and more shots. Mufumbi slid his arms under the body and lifted. "Okay," he asked. She nodded, grinding her teeth against the crushing pain. Someone in a jumpsuit scrambled down the mountaintop towards them, and he held a rifle high. "Stop," he ordered them. "It's Ezekiel," Mufumbi told her in an undertone as he kept moving slowly backwards towards the trees. Kayla guessed he was hoping to disappear into the forest behind them. Ezekiel called to a suited figure up by the building. "I have them." He turned back and aimed his gun at them. "Put her down, Mufumbi." "She's badly hurt," Mufumbi told him. "Put her down and come with me. I'll send some people down to get her." Kayla tried to object, but her voice was too dry and low for them to hear. She dug her fingers into Mufumbi's arm and shook her head. Mufumbi's eyes darted between Kayla and Ezekiel as he lowered her carefully to the ground. "What happened to you?" he asked Ezekiel. "I thought Dave Young was your guy. I thought you were going to stand strong against this." What was Mufumbi doing? Was he really letting Ezekiel bring them in? He must think she was so injured it was his only choice. And he was probably right. What else could they do? But it seemed unreal that they had come this far only to be brought in by Tattoo Jen. Ezekiel kept his rifle tamed at Mufumbi. "Shut up," he said. "Dave Young is on his way down, just like the rest of you. I tried to help you both, but it's too late for that now." Up at the building, another gunshot fired. Someone screamed. Ezekiel glanced up, directed by the sounds, and in that moment, Mufumbi leapt at him, knocking Ezekiel backwards. His gun fell, bouncing once and discharging a shot as it hit the ground. Kayla recoiled at the sound. This was her chance to escape, but pain had made her helpless, too weak to get up and run. The rifle slid towards Kayla, stopping just out of reach. She stretched toward it, and the effort sent searing, knife-like pains up her injured arm. Ezekiel and Mufumbi were locked in their fight, both tumbling over and over towards trees at the edge of the forest. Ezekiel landed on top and began to punch Mufumbi, smashing him hard in the face. Over then, half a dead pine creaked in the breeze. A thick pine branch dropped brown needles on the fight below. Kayla watched the branch dangle dangerously above the two of them. She shut her eyes and envisioned the tree branch. With every bit of her remaining strength, she saw the branch with all of its detail. She felt where it was weak, on the verge of splitting. She absorbed that image of weakness and made it a part of her. That's where she focused her own energy. Her total energized being aiming itself at the weak spot in the branch, aimed at cracking it. Kayla tossed her head back with the effort of total focus, and her own power coursed through her as she concentrated the entire strength of her being on the energy release. With her head thrown back, she didn't see the branch sail through the air, tumbling down through the leaves of branches end over end, but she heard the sickening crunch of bones breaking as it landed.